Hello, madam, please begin.
All right. Okay. So, with ma'am's consent, shall we start, ma'am?
Yes, please. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I, Dr. Nidhi Nalwaya, Associate Professor, Faculty of Commerce, welcome you all in series of webinars at Parul University. The webinar is being conducted with the express objective of understanding the changes in roles and responsibility of leadership during the ongoing crisis of the pandemic. Today's topic for the webinar is Navigating Crisis Lesson from Leadership. As the world grapples with new realities, the ways in which business leaders are stepping up to take action suggests that we are witnessing a new paradigm. The ongoing coronavirus pandemic is posing unprecedented challenges to leadership across the world. The pace at which the policymakers, practitioners, and researchers react to the emerging and complex crisis will make a profound difference to people, lives, and livelihoods. So, with this view in the discussion would be focused on behaviors and practices to help the leaders navigate the pandemic and work towards recovery from the current and future crises. I take the privilege to introduce our eminent guest speaker, Ms. Preeti Mishra, who is currently associated with Indian Institute of Management, Udaipur, as assistant professor in the area of organizational behavior and human resource management. She is graduated with a PhD from Monash University, Australia. Ms. Keerti is an early career researcher who has previously held appointments at IIM Lucknow, Monash University, Swinburne University, and the University of Queensland. Ms. Keerti has a unique perspective and valuable experience in the areas of corporate sustainability, organizational responses to climate change, and strategizing for grand challenges. She has to her credit premier research which has been presented at multiple European Group of Organization Studies and Academy of Management conferences and has been published in the Australasian Journal of Environment Management and South Asian Journal of Human Resource Management. Hereby, I, Dr. Nidhi, extend a warm welcome on the behalf of Faculty of Commerce, Parul University.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Um,
ma'am.
that was a very long and generous introduction. Thank you so much for that. It's a pleasure to be virtually meeting everyone and discussing, or rather, sharing my views on this really important topic. Um, Before I begin, obviously we've gathered here online virtually during this webinar in the context of a crisis or a pandemic that all of us are facing individually in terms of our organizational lives. Having said that, crisis is not new. We've been facing organizations and individuals. We have faced crises, and we probably continue to face crises. But what we can do is we can learn how to sort of survive and thrive in these crises. And this is where leadership sort of comes in. So hopefully, I can share with you some behaviors and practices that can help us in navigating crises. Obviously, given the context that we are doing this in today, the pandemic is obviously going to play a huge part in terms of our discussions around navigating crisis. So, while we're talking about crises in general, the pandemic is the most recent, the context in which we are going to discuss crisis and leadership. Before we begin, we talk about crisis, and I thought, what better way to start than talk about two global leaders, right? Um,
Okay.
these are global leaders, and they have been tackling the pandemic when it comes to an entire country, right? So on
Yeah.
the top, you have Donald Trump, who has been dealing with the response of United States of America, and then below we have Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern. Now, here's the thing, right? Over the last few months, since these leaders and countries have been responding to the pandemic, the response of one of them has been identified to be an exemplar response. People are saying that this is a masterclass in leadership. This is a model that other countries should follow. This is how leaders should be. And when it comes to the other person, mostly this person's response has been criticized. This person has been blamed, and people, got on to say that there is a complete lack of leadership. And therefore, it doesn't really come as a surprise. I checked these statistics beginning of the week on Monday. So New Zealand had a stretch of 104 days where there was no new infection of corona. And from this Monday onwards, the Monday that went by, New Zealand has actually gotten rid of most of its lockdown restrictions. Apart from a hotspot in Auckland, there are no restrictions anymore because there hasn't been any report of new infections. On the other hand, very unfortunately, on Monday, United States of America reported 200,000 deaths from corona. And that is the highest number when we talk about worldwide. So what is going on? How is it that one leader has responded very differently and the other has responded very differently? And so as we discuss behaviors and practices of leadership, I want you to keep these two leaders in your mind. One hand, we have from, kind of even being ostracized for his lack of leadership. That what has happened. And on the other hand, we have Jacinda Ardern, who's being, she's being revered as a leader. It's being said that this is an example of good leadership in, in times of not just a national but a global crisis. So while I'm talking about how we respond to crisis, we try to learn from things that these two people have done or they have not done. So crisis, like I said, it's nothing new. Businesses have faced crisis, organizations have faced crisis. Individually, we have all faced crisis. So then what is it? What is it that we're talking about today? Now, crisis can be understood. There are two types of crisis. The first one is a more routine crisis, which actually we know how to take care of. Sometimes if it's a personal crisis, we know how to respond to it. We'll go talk to our mothers, we'll talk to our parents and resolve our crisis. Businesses. So there are some routine crises. For example, businesses are prepared. Let's say you're a toy manufacturer, you're a Toyota. You know what to do if there is a faulty engine. There's a template. There's a series of steps you need to take. You have to recall your product from the market. There's a template given to you. You know what to do. That's a routine crisis. But what we're talking about right now, what we are facing right now is the non-routine crisis. When you don't know what to do. There's no template, right? True. Say that tomorrow, let's vaccinate everyone. We'll vaccinate everyone in the world. How is that going to happen? What if the vaccine doesn't work? What if the vaccine actually creates another set of problems, another set of symptoms that we are not prepared for? Exactly. So we don't have a template. We don't know what to do. And this is what makes this, the non-routine crisis are challenging. And when we turn to leadership, here's something we know from leadership, right? When it comes to non-routine crisis, your authoritarian, autocratic command and control is not going to work.
True.
You cannot have one person, magically appears and says, right, this is what we're going to do, and we fix it.
Exactly. So, leading from the front does not mean being isolated. So, however, to be sure, from many leaders, one of the hardest things to do is to rely on the opinions and the decisions of the other people. But that's exactly what they need to do in the time of crisis, especially when the cause of this crisis is outside of their area of expertise.
Absolutely. And I think the first step here is actually saying that, what? I am not an expert in this and I don't know the answers. But what I'm willing to do is I'm willing to create a group, create a network of people who have the answers or who have the expertise. And this has become very clearly, evident in the COVID response. If you look at different countries, Most of the countries have created task forces and groups to respond to the crisis. And you will see that there's somebody from the healthcare department. There is somebody who understands biology. Because we don't expect, right? I think we shouldn't even expect Prime Minister Modi to understand the virology of COVID-19, whether it's a DNA virus or an RNA virus or whatever is happening. So it takes, and this is where this non-routine crisis, we cannot rely on an individual. The shift is now going to be a group of people, a network of people. And the moment we start talking about groups and network, then what is the role of the CEO or what is the role of the manager? It is actually to empower these people, to give them, to give them that decision-making power, to create a culture of trust. So when command and control isn't going to work, what works? Trust works, right? So we build teams who are going to be, there's going to be a culture of trust, and individual members of these teams are empowered. Empowerment is very, very important. And the leadership now, it moves away from saying that I'm going to make the absolute decision, but it goes from there to being, how can I support these group of people? Right? We talk about things like being an authentic leader. We're talking about things like servant leadership, where you are creating an ecosystem for these people to be their best. You're acknowledging that I alone, it's a fool's task if I'm thinking I'm going to resolve this on my own. So you create a group of people, and then you create an ecosystem for them, you empower them, and they are going to work because of trust. At the same time, we shouldn't forget that accountability is important. So I think a critical role of leader here would be to set some structures around accountability, right? So who's going to be the final decision maker? How are we going to prioritize things? Setting some timelines is also very important. That when do, for example, if a report is due, when do we create some timelines around them? So the leader is going to make sure that there are accountability principles which are set in place. So, since we're talking about crisis, and I teach in a management school, so we tend to love we love small models. We use our models, heuristics to make sense of things. So if I actually had to summarize, how is leadership relevant when we are talking about crisis? It's the 3 C's to me. The first one is communication. Internal as well as external communication from the leader at this time. And right now, when I say leader, I'm mostly talking about CEOs, I'm mostly talking about managers and political leaders. So do forgive me. This is not to say that individual employees are not leaders, they're also leaders. But right now, I'm focusing on the CEOs and managers and team leaders. Communication has to be very clear. I remember very recently, I had to travel from Udaipur to Delhi. And I was traveling by road. And honestly speaking, I had no idea in terms of what was the paperwork that was required. I talked to 7 people, and 7 people gave me 7 different answers. Now think about it in terms of an organization. You're working in a team. And if you're giving, 7 different kinds of things, 7 different conflicting information also sometimes, right? Because somebody told me you need the document, and somebody said, no need. You can just go wherever you would like to. When I went on the Rajasthan government website, there was a different piece of information. UP government had different information, and Delhi government had different information. So just, imagine that this is already a crisis. I'm very worried. I have to travel because it's a necessity. I have to, think about my safety, ensure that, I get home very safely. And on top of that, I'm getting all this conflicting information. That is an example of extremely, extremely bad communication. We cannot have that in crisis, because that actually, it overwhelms the individual who is feeling the crisis, and it makes the crisis even more complex. So it's adding a layer of complexity that we don't need. It's complex enough, right? We're struggling already.
Right, exactly.
We are in deep trouble. So why do we need to? So as leaders in organizations, as team leaders, or even as co-workers, it's very important that we make sure that our communication is crystal clear. Make sure that we are not sugarcoating things too much, right?
Right.
It is as it is. Not also sugarcoating our response. And if it means accepting and saying that, I don't know this, That's also clear and honest communication. But it has to be very clear. So leaders have to ensure that this conflicting information is not happening within their organizations. Make sure your vision and your values are very, very clear.
True.
These are tough times when we think about the economic situation. I just read, Ola has to fire. They ended up laying off around 5,000 employees. It's a tough time, right? Can we blame them? Should we blame them? I don't think any of us are in that position to answer that. Should they have prepared for a financial problem or a financial crisis? The answer would probably be yes. But again, with the pandemic, we don't know how it's going to happen. So in these times, it becomes really important when you're making these decisions. What was the vision of the company? What are the values that we hold dearly? And I'd like to share this example of I recently read about Airbnb. So I was thinking, this technology sector to a certain extent, this has not harmed them a lot, right? Many of them already working from home. But when we talk about sectors which have been impacted a lot, the first sector that came to me was hospitality and tourism.
Exactly.
So I started looking at, what is Airbnb doing? And it's very interesting. So in the beginning, they had no answer, which I felt was, it's kind of expected, right? We've never faced it before. So where would they know what to do when there is, the corona pandemic came? So they didn't have an answer. There was a little bit of criticism when they announced that we are going to lay off employees. But in May, something changed.
Right.
The CEO announced that, people are important to us. We have to go back to our vision and values. So right now we can't have them on board, but how can we support them in a different way? So they have actually started a database for all the employees who have been laid off to support them in finding new jobs.
Wow.
Now it's just, and it's not like that was the first thing that came to their heads, right? It took some time for the leadership to come to that, but they went back to their vision and values. Now think about the kind of citizenship behavior, the kind of brand image they are building right now. Because they went to their vision and said, fine, this is the reality and we have to accept the reality. We cannot keep them on the payroll. But what else can we do for them? We can help them in finding new jobs. They have promised that, they're working with their recruiters. They're working with recruiters so that they can find the best fit for the people who have been let go right now. So this is where you go back, and you go back and start thinking, what is our vision? What are our core values? And then you think about how, what our strengths are. And then finally, I cannot stress the importance of this. Relationships are crucial. And this, when I say relationships, let me also say this is not just for an organization leader, but individually also. Your relationships that you have with your fellow employees. And from an organizational perspective, for a leader, the relationships you have with your peers, with your employees becomes very important, from your team members, and relationships across the entire supply chain. Now, if we look at the economy, right, how it is structured, supply chains are crucial. And we're all part of we're all engaging in global supply chains. So when the virus, when the pandemic, when WHO announced on March 11th, this is a pandemic, and one after the other countries started to shut down their borders, the first thing that was disrupted was the global supply chain. What do you now? What do you do now? There's no transport. So this is where, having those caring relationships, understanding where your supplier is coming from, understanding that what are the legal implications in that particular country, because we have to be aware now. What has happened is, as the lockdown is evolving in different countries now have different rules. So some countries you have, you don't have any quarantine and international travel is open. Some countries absolutely not.
Yes, they are restricted.
So now again, when you think about it from a business perspective, you can't even have a one-size-fits-all strategy here. So you will have to work individually with your different suppliers. In a country like India also, right? Different states have different quarantine and different lockdown laws. So if you even have a local supply chain in India, you have to be aware that different suppliers are facing a completely different reality. So how do you ensure that you are, facing, you're making sure that you are communicating, like I said, communicating the reality to them, and then working with them that how are we going to resolve this crisis together. So these things, the communication, clarity, and caring relationships is going to be very important. Like I said, the traditional autocratic, authoritarian domination perspective of leadership unfortunately doesn't help in crisis. What helps in crisis is empathy, understanding the needs of others as well as understanding your own response to a crisis. So less of the authoritarian, more of the empathy and working together. The collaboration is going to be the key if leaders are going to navigate through this crisis.
Right. So this requires adaptive leadership capabilities like being open and transparent about learning, using collective decision-making processes, and building the trust with communities and individuals.
Absolutely, yeah. You've identified, there's a couple of things you said there that are so very important. Trust, like I've said, and working with your stakeholders. So this is the interesting thing, right? We're not in this alone. So why act like we're all in this alone? We were just talking before the webinar started how the teaching industry has been impacted, right? We are all now teaching online. Now, when I have to design my lesson plan, why should I start from scratch? I can reach out. I talked about building relationships, right? I can reach out to people who've been doing it for some time now. I can learn from them. Being open, right? When they're giving me feedback, I can be open to that feedback. So this is, I find this to be the most interesting thing that everybody's complaining. We tend to feel that the weight of the world is just on my shoulders. That's not true. Leadership doesn't mean that we have to be all powerful and navigate these crises all by ourselves. We have to create those support systems individually. For us, if you have to work in an organization, if you have to lead a good life personally, a meaningful life, and in organizations also, working in teams, collaboration, one of the key things is the openness to feedback.
Exactly.
Because it's, like I said, it's a crisis. You don't know what is right.
Right.
But what we can do is we can seek feedback. And the more open you are to feedback and the more quick you are in seeking feedback, you will be able to get from that wrong to the right in a relatively faster manner. Because let's be honest, we're all going to make mistakes. Like I said, it's a novel crisis. We don't know. So we are experimenting. And with experimentation, there will be some experiments which won't work. But it's, how we will define success is how quickly you're able to bounce back from those. And what are you learning from those failures? I always go back to Thomas Edison. He said that, I don't fail. I've just figured out ways in which things don't work.
Exactly.
This is going to be extremely important, this idea of experimentation, right? Trying new business models, trying new products and services. I was talking about Airbnb. So let me share another example of what they have done. If you go on their website right now, so you have experiences and you have another tab, which is virtual experiences. Right. So sitting in your home, you can actually go and learn how to make wine in France or how to make pasta with somebody from Italy in their home. They're teaching you how to make pasta from scratch. And that particular business model, right, of virtual experiences, in the last month, that is the business unit which has shown the maximum growth for Airbnb. And now they're thinking, guess what? Even in a post-COVID world, this could be a way to make revenue for us. Because they went back to their core vision and value. We wanted to bring people together. Homestay was just one option, and these virtual experiences are another way of doing the same thing. So unless you experiment, right, creativity, experimentation, there will be failures. but it's how
Yes.
we perceive those failures, So
Right.
that's why it's really important that we understand failures are a must, because it's equally important to know what doesn't work. But do you
Right.
sit on those failures? Do you start, do you have a culture where you're playing the blame game, figuring out, kisne galti ki, who needs to be hanged right now? Or do you quickly say, okay, so this doesn't work, where did we go wrong? And let's try to fix that in the next set of things that
Next
we're
one.
doing.
Exactly.
That is extremely, I cannot stress that how important it is that we seek feedback as individuals, as leaders, as organization, and we're open to that feedback. And use
Exactly.
those networks, right? So your stakeholders are there, your consumers are there. All of these are going to provide, they're going to be a great source of feedback. So we need to essentially be really open to feedback and think of learning and experimentation. That
Yes.
is going to be a key when we talk about navigating crisis.
Right.
So I just another thing that I wanted to sort of talk about here was, when we think about navigating crisis, the other question that comes to mind is, how do you make decisions? Because things are so uncertain. How do I make a decision? Like I said, one way is that you get a group of people who have expertise, and you allow them to come up with solutions. The other thing that's going to be really important is how quickly you are making decisions. So the speed of making decisions. And the reason I'm saying the speed is important here is because the crisis is unfolding and changing every single day. That's what makes it so complex. Solutions that we are putting in today actually become a problem for tomorrow. And the best example of this is the idea of work from home.
Right.
So still remember, March 20, in late March, when we said lockdown. I was on campus in Udaipur, and there were some students also there, and we were so happy. Let's make the most of it. I don't have to now go into the office. I can sit at home, in my pajamas, and I can work all day long. I don't even have to worry about brushing my hair and how do I look. It's saving so much time. There was that phase where everybody was talking about, I am so productive. I'm saving all the time I used to spend on traveling. I don't have to worry about wearing formal clothes. There were some people, who were actively buying pajamas, PJs, because that's what you wear nowadays. In fact,
Right.
my dad commented on my shopping tendencies, and he told me that you don't need clothes. See, all you need is just one pair of clothes, and you can work. So this is all just, it's a sham that you tell me you have to buy clothes for work. Cut to now, right? The last couple of weeks, I've been reflecting on this. I'm not sure if I am as productive as I thought I was. My screen time, my devices tell me my screen time has increased by more than 100% on some days. In terms of work hours, sometimes I have a meeting at 8:30 in the morning, and I also have a meeting at 9:30 in the evening. I'm not sure that was, that I was not sure that that's what I was getting so happy for. I'm grateful that I can see people virtually, but I miss that, that energy that you get when you really see someone.
Exactly.
When you see, it's not just about seeing that smile on somebody's face, but when you feel that smile. Right now, when it comes to teaching, Nidhi, you would agree with me, we see our students' faces, but it's not just the face, right? There's something that magic happens in a classroom.
Right.
I miss that magic now. I get a little bit stressed out also. And that is what most people have been reporting now when they talk about work from home. So it has, the solution that we came up with, great, everybody's at home, we get everybody laptops, we get them ergonomic chairs, we give them good Wi-Fi, problem solved. Problems not solved. People are reporting extremely stressed out. People are reporting, guess what? I do not have any concept of work and life now. My kitchen is my workplace. My bedroom has become my workplace. So now leaders are thinking, great, now we have to resolve this problem. So
Exactly. We are still figuring out a rhythm, that works exactly as an educators also. It's a challenge.
right? So this is so one of the things when we think about crisis, it's really important that constant monitoring of the situation. That's why quick decisions, because if you're late in implementing decisions, then you'll find that the context is completely changed. So very quick decisions. Of course, that doesn't mean that you make any decision. It has to be made with precision, but quick decisions will help. And this is where those teams can be really, really beneficial. I was recently talking to somebody at Coca-Cola, and that was their first response. As soon as the lockdown was finalized and implemented in India, the team, the senior team got together, and then everybody was given a certain task that, okay, this is your responsibility. And then they worked for a week. And this is an example for manufacturing. So I think that, their challenges are very different from what a technology company would face. But these teams, and ensuring that, these teams had certain accountability standards set for them and they were empowered to bring in the decisions, that's how they were able to shift and ensure that, some manufacturing plants, I've forgotten the name, but one of their manufacturing plants is now completely digitized.
Yep.
Right, it's completely automated. So this is where you have to be very, you have to be speedy, because the context is evolving at a really, really fast pace. What is true today might not be true tomorrow. Even countries, when we look at their laws around lockdown, you see that they're being changed on a regular basis. So
here, leaders also have to be agile in changing not only plans and work schedules, but also their own leadership styles.
Absolutely, whatever works. So it's like don't be too emotionally attached. And this is an advice in general in life also, right? Let's not get too emotionally attached with our leadership style, or sometimes this happens with decisions. Right? Because you think, oh, we spend so much time with this plan and we have to stick to it. No, that doesn't work anymore.
Okay.
So leaders have to, you're absolutely right. We talked about agile organizations, but agility is very important at an individual level also. And sometimes for leaders, it's more important that they have to tell their employees that, listen, let go. Over the last few days, I've been thinking, I'm hoping that there's some, the students who are joining this webinar as well, way back, what Taylor Swift talked about, she had that song, Shake It Off.
Yes.
I think that's a good mindset when we are thinking about crisis. That keep on moving fast, keep on learning, and try to shake things off. There will be, because when we are experimenting, there are no guarantees. But if you spend a lot of your time and energy looking for those, one solution, then I think you're not going to be able to sustain that or be successful. So very important to don't get emotionally attached to your decisions. Learn from your failures. Constantly monitor what is happening around you and make those changes in the plan. Right? Plan is an outline. You will make changes depending upon how the situation you are in is evolving, how the crisis. Like I said, sometimes our response to a crisis also may magnify the crisis. I'll give you, if you think about, so because I work in the sustainability sector, 2011-12, BP oil spill in Gulf of Mexico. And it was, the oil spill in itself was a crisis. But the fact that BP responded to it in a very negative manner, there was lack of clear communication, nobody was taking responsibility. They were so late in terms of cleaning that spill, that increased the crisis for BP. It created a more reputational damage for BP, which was, more than what was anticipated. So look out for that. Like, my responses today would create challenges for tomorrow. So the constant monitoring and feedback is what leaders should be looking into.
Right. Definitely.
So if I just move on, this is what I think effective leadership would look like. The idea is to build diverse, multidisciplinary teams. Now, let me get back to the Donald Trump Jacinda Ardern example. If you look at, so both these countries they have, as soon as the crisis became real, they've created teams to work on the COVID crisis. In terms of Jacinda Ardern, every time she has communicated about the lockdown and how the country is responding to it, you always see that there is somebody who's who understands the science behind this, is always standing next to her, answering all the scientific questions, right? Because that's what's important. I mean, obviously, she's the prime minister. We don't expect, like I said, I shouldn't be expecting her to know what is the structure of the COVID RNA. Then you look at Donald Trump and the kind of team that he has assembled. And from day one, this team has been criticized because none of them have any experience with healthcare. None of them understand how biology works. And yet we expect them to drive us through this pandemic. So, we have to understand, this is where, effective versus ineffective leadership. Why we are looking at Donald Trump and saying, please don't do that. Right? That is not a good then, ambiguity, addressing that ambiguity with bold ideas. So as soon as the WHO announced that this is a pandemic, New Zealand went into a complete shutdown. Jacinda Ardern came down. They had already created a message which was circulated to everyone. And the message clearly stated, like I said, clear communication. There are 4 levels of warning. This is what each level means. Right now, we are in the 4th level of warning. From, as of now, immediately, all of these sanctions, restrictions are going to be in place. Very boldly, she said that out loud. We're not going to wait for what other countries are doing. New Zealand is effectively in lockdown. And what that tells everybody else is how important this is. Our leader has immediately, taken hold of what is going on, and she's asked us to do all these things. In doing so, again, emphasizing experimentation and learning. So one of the things I like about Jacinda Ardern a lot is she's the first one to say, yes, we might have gotten this wrong. Given, if I have to reflect, maybe we could have done this differently. But at that point in time, given the limited information we had, this is what we have achieved. And this is, this is what we have to understand as leaders. Let's be happy with good. There's no point in running after perfect information right now, because things are continuously changing. We are in very dynamic environments. Don't waste your time in trying to get to the perfect solution, perfect information. Bounded rationality, we make use of the information that we have. Yes. And then, like I said, a lot of why we turn to leaders, there's a reason why we're talking about crisis and leadership. Because when things go wrong, the tendency that we look up to people, we look up to our role models, we look up to our parents, for somebody to just hold our hand and guide us. And in organizations, that is, that's where we start looking at our leaders, that, you're going to guide us, we don't know what to do, just give me some direction. So it's very important that in your communication, celebrate the small wins. So don't forget the optimism, right? When New Zealand was 104 days of no infection, Jacinda Ardern, she went on social media and she congratulated. She said, I'm proud of every New Zealander for ensuring that we are getting this virus under control. Show empathy. So if you follow Jacinda Ardern on Facebook, or even with, we see our Prime Minister, our own Prime Minister doing this, showing the signs that it's not easy to do in a lockdown. It is not easy to do juggling work and life at the same time. And you see that, so that it's them trying to show us that, listen, I know it's hard, but it's necessary. However, I'm with you. I understand that it's not as easy. So, stand with me. And that inspiration is required, right? When when you're feeling low, that's when the inspiration comes in the beginning, we had so many celebrities coming together, organizing online virtual shows, sharing messages of hope with us. All of that was, essentially the idea that we have to inspire people. Because navigating crisis, and especially this pandemic, because let's be honest, there is a huge health aspect of it. Our safety is at risk. We don't know how long this will last. My dad every day he says, okay, every evening he's very positive and he'll tell me, don't worry, in 6 months this will resolve. The next day he'll, get up early in the morning, read the newspapers, and then he'll tell me, no, this will not go. It will take at least 5 more years. That's the kind of uncertainty we're dealing with as individuals.
Right,
To
right.
couple that uncertainty with what will happen to the economy. How will
Biggest question.
it bounce back? What will happen to jobs? We are already seeing that a lot of jobs will probably not be required, and a lot of jobs will have to be restructured. Customer experiences are changing. While COVID is happening, there is also the other wave of digitization, and these two now entangle. Customer experiences are changing. For example, I don't know. 1 year from now, if you send me to a shopping mall, I'm not used to it anymore. I might not know what to do because I'm so used to, going on the app and finalizing what I want. You can easily sort out the sizes and everything. You can even have, the 3D technology allows you to see how you're going to look wearing something.
Yes.
So my entire, in when we talk about product development, we map out the journey of a product. That has completely changed. My experience with the product has changed. Look at how we're celebrating festivals. Raksha
Yes.
Bandhan was all online. Kumbh, you see it virtually. Movies. Why would you know now need to go to a theater? All those experiences are changing. So this is where I think that empathy and inspiration are going to be very, very important.
Right.
Businesses will have to restructure their business models, their offerings, the products and services that they are offering. And this will mean some jobs will entirely change within an organization, and some jobs might not even exist. But there is an opportunity because new jobs would come in. Right? We're seeing that with technology. There's a huge demand for data analysts, for example. So, as an individual, it becomes important that we are building our own skills as well. Now, the good thing is, since we're talking about leadership and management, skills like critical thinking, creativity, automation, and digitization will not disrupt them. So if you look at the most recent report by World Economic Forum, it has identified that these are the top 10, these are the top 10 skills which will be needed
Yes, later ahead.
now, yeah, even right now, and even in the post-COVID world. So there's that opportunity for individuals. How do
Right.
we navigate the crisis as individuals? By ensuring that we are working on these kinds of skills. Um, this was just, in terms of, you talked about adaptation. So I think when we're thinking about adaptation, some very micro level things that leaders should be doing. Seeking credible information. We live in the age of WhatsApp University. I want to, kill myself every time somebody says to me that I learned this on WhatsApp. I'm like, what does that mean? How are you learning things on WhatsApp? And if it's on WhatsApp, it must be true. No, please seek credible information. Make sure you're looking at the sources of the information that you're getting. Social media is not a place to get your information and make decisions, right? Let's get
Right,
that.
right.
Using appropriate communication channels. A lot of technologies are on offer. When it comes to navigating crisis, I would still say that video communications are the best. And that's why you will see that many leaders are putting out video messages and doing things like Facebook Live and Instagram Live, because it gives you that connection with the leader. It helps with the empathy and compassion. It is important to internally and externally explain what your organization is doing. It doesn't help anybody if you're hiding from your employees and your stakeholders what is really going on. Again, that would only mean you're magnifying the crisis. So be very honest in your communications. Be present as a leader. It's really important. People, like I said, are looking up to you. They're relying on you for guidance. So don't be absent. Um, I was looking at Marriott hotels, and their CEO, he has actually been undergoing cancer treatment. And yet, when the pandemic was announced by WHO, he appeared in a video message, and he made it a point to say that yes, I don't look great because he's undergoing chemotherapy, so he's lost his hair and he's becoming skinny. But he said, I had to come and show my face, and I had to be here for all of you to explain what we are doing as a chain of hotels, how it impacts us, and what we are going to do in the next few days. Similarly, um, if you look at Google, what Sundar Pichai is doing is he sends these emails out. Thank God it's Friday emails. Every you read those emails, and even when I don't work at Google, and still I feel that okay, reassured. Like okay, somebody understands me.
Right.
And this is where which actually shows so as you all know that lockdown restrictions are now being relaxed, and some people are now getting back to work. So
Right.
most recent email, he has he's really gone into the details of what it means to get back to work. And you
Yes.
might have come across very recently Google has said you can actually work 4 days a week.
Yes. Yes.
So then you see, okay, that's a leader who understands. This is a leader who
Right.
knows that, virtual work has actually increased my stress levels.
Yes. Yes.
It's
So
not,
this is how the leaders demonstrate the responsibility in this crisis. So definitely, making decisions and collaborate with others uncertainly and how they cope with the substantial stress in this time of COVID.
absolutely. And, hats off to leaders. And I think we should also be very cognizant that it's their responsibility to look after everyone else, but at the same time, yourself too. Right, we have to and this is why you see that a lot of people we were talking about
Right.
how can you ensure that your physical and mental well-being has to be ensured. We know that
Exactly.
Prime Minister Modi has been extremely vocal about it. We had the fitness week going on, that
Yes.
it's really really important. So I said in the beginning that when I'm talking about leadership, I'm talking about CEOs and managers, but each one of us has agency, and therefore we are all leaders in our lives. In
Right.
our homes, as teachers we are leaders. So it's important that we also take care of our physical and mental well-being when we are talking about navigating crisis.
Yes. Definitely. So, the pain is, the pain is personal, emotional, psychological, economical. It's like it leaves scars. We can say that it's a black swan event.
It is absolutely, and I think it is going to create further black swan events as well. I was thinking about again, so pardon me because I think about the education sector since I am an educator. Um, what will happen? We're going to get kids whose primary education has all been online. What does it
Exactly.
yeah, what does it mean for engagement? Like what happens when we see I mean, they will probably only understand virtual collaboration. So what happens in our classrooms?
True.
Right? So just we don't know what's going to happen.
What's happen? Exactly. Definitely. True.
Do
We
we,
can take.
do
Yeah,
we
we
want to
do
take
have some
questions?
questions. Yes, we have some questions
Yeah,
posted by students as well as the people who have joined our session.
nice. So let's take. I think let's take some
Ye-
questions. It's always
All
fun
right.
to hear other people. I've been hearing my voice for a very long time now.
Okay. So, with your consent, ma'am, can we go for the question and
Yes,
answer
yes,
round?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes,
All
sure.
right. Fine. So,
Do you want
query
me
posted.
to? Is it okay if I turn off the slideshow now?
Yeah, yeah, not a problem. It's
Okay.
okay. Fine. All right. So, shall I start?
Yes, please. Yeah.
So there's a query like what changes are required in leadership practices regarding digital transformation during the pandemic?
Right. Um, so the pandemic and the digital, right? So there's that entanglement. What what the pandemic has done is, it's made that virtualization. It's kind of acted as a catalyst. So a lot of work from home, a lot of you know, technologies being increasing that kind of accessibility that we have. Going back to what I said, any kind of transformation that is happening, we have to understand that the role of the leaders is going to change, and they will be responsible to make, to create cultures which encourage empowerment and create accountability roles. um, how to navigate ambiguity, because the ambiguity is kind of similar when we think of digital as well as pandemic. So working with incomplete information, I think that's going to be something that leaders, would be a change in leadership practice. Not just making the decision by yourself, but creating those networks and empowering those networks to make those decisions for you, and then be selecting those decisions. That would be key. um, I think what would also happen is, with virtual all around the world, we are thinking that how we communicate at work is going to change. How we use virtual platforms, how we collaborate, how we talk to each other, how we essentially work is also going to change.
Right.
So how, so leaders need to understand first, how do we help our people transition. Different groups of people in our workforce are going to be reacting differently to these kinds of transitions. One size fits all won't work. Like I said, there would be Generation Z who are very comfortable with virtual platforms, and some
Right.
people would not like, wouldn't be that much. So how do you do that? And at the same time, leaders need to look out for some opportunities here as well. That there could be, I was reading about healthcare, and with digital and what the COVID has done, there can be so many innovations in the healthcare sector. So there will be opportunities. So some of these changes would have to be looked at leader as, as opportunities as well as challenges.
Right.
One of the things that, we talk about, we've been talking about design thinking, and the one aspect of design thinking that I think will become crucial is the idea of human centered design thinking. Because digital as well as pandemic really is changing how we experience things, how we, like I said, how you, basic rituals, right? I heard people were getting
Right.
married online. People are getting married online. So the essential, what does that mean? Marriages are now happening online. Pujas will happen online. So the experiences of people are changing. So our products and services therefore would have to be modified accordingly. So
True, true. Well said, ma'am. Yeah. A participant has put a question like, how can leadership ensure productivity of teams working remotely during the pandemic?
right. So I think there's a long term perspective to it, to this, which is hopefully you have been building trust with your team, and so you
Yes.
don't have to monitor them. Now,
Mm.
if you haven't done that, then there are various monitoring softwares. But I am extremely critical of employee surveillance. But that's not to say nothing can be done. Um, when we talk about collaboration and support, like most of the tech companies, they have they're providing their people with the best kind of systems with ergonomic chairs, so that you have that. They've also set certain ground rules in terms of collaborating that reduce stress of employees. So no WhatsApp, no calls after 5:30. Mandatory breaks for everyone. That you will have to take a lunch break. So this is how
Right.
they're supporting. I think as a leader, obviously the culture and trust part is there, but it takes time.
Yes.
But
Yes.
but sort of a banded approach would be that there are a lot of softwares and tools that are available, and figuring out which is the best one that meets the needs of your team. If there is, for example, that generational divide, then what might be the best way, right?
Yes.
Even a tool like WhatsApp, right? Some people are not comfortable using that. So how do you then ensure collaboration? So think of some other tools. So
Right.
tailor it to the needs of your team, and long term keep working on that trust, and make sure you're setting rules for accountability.
Mm, mm. Right. Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Another question is regarding what strategies can be opted by leadership to keep the employees and other stakeholders motivated during the crisis?
I'll again have to go back to the idea. First thing is communication.
Right.
Keeping both your internal and external stakeholders aware of what is going on, instead of obviously don't get into the thinking that optimism means that I have to paint everything in a very nice manner. That's not right, because eventually they will get to know what is happening. So be very honest in your in your communication, and empathy is going to be really important.
Right.
This is not me saying this because I say that I am a feminist and things like that. But when we globally look at how people have responded to crisis, apart from Jacinda Ardern, people talk about Angela Merkel's response and also the Norwegian Prime Minister's response. And why is it that the three leaders whose response we are talking about happen to be women? I don't think it's a measure of them being women. I think it's a measure of the leadership qualities we associate with that gender, which is care, compassion, and empathy. If we
Yes.
look at it, if we turn to decision making also, if we look at the difference in decision making models, women tend to the style that they prefer is a style that focuses on relationships first.
Right.
And so that will become important, because at the end of the day, when you say that I have to work with my employees and stakeholders, we're talking about relationships. So trust, communication, being very clear, and understanding that empathy, right? That your supplier is also going through a very tough time. So how can we ensure support to the supplier? Like, can we defer our payments? Can we set up different kinds of models so that they are also, again, that idea that we're all in this together. So how we're also going to come out of this together. Reskilling your employees. If you are, if there is no other option but employees have to be laid off, how can we make this transition very easy for them? Would that be through a mass email that we send, or would that be better if we had a personal conversation with them? So think about the Airbnb example. That can we actually help our laid off employees to find new jobs? So empathy, relationship would be very key here, and honest, transparent communication, and communicate regularly, right? Because it's an evolving thing. Crises are always evolving, so your response is always evolving. So make sure that your employees as well as your external stakeholders, they know what is going on.
Well said, ma'am. Well said. I know it's not an easy transition, but yes, it definitely will work. All right. We'll take one more question, ma'am.
Sure.
All right. So one of these student is asking, how has decision making and implementation changed for leadership during the pandemic?
So decision making, first of all, making decisions with a lot of ambiguity. In terms of tools, a lot of modeling is happening. So that's why I said, analysts are in a lot of demand. I also see that attention is going, we've been talking about big data a lot. But to be successful in these times, you need both. You need big data, so you need those massive chunks of data. Along with it, you also need thick data. So a combination, different kinds of data that you need to put into your decision making. Quick decision making, quick implementation, and seeking feedback. Right, so we don't sit on our decisions for long. We get we implement the decision, we prioritize, and then we immediately implement and we understand. So there's that learning loop that we see has been accelerated, and it does accelerate in terms of crisis because things are evolving at a faster rate. So the best we can do is increase our learning very quickly. Try to understand what is happening, make a decision, then come back to it. Modeling tools, modeling different scenarios. So I was talking about experimentation, and how we do that at a strategy level is through things like scenario planning and modeling. What happens if this
Right.
goes on? What happens if this goes on? What will happen to our financial liquidity and things like that. So a lot of those tools are becoming very useful and supporting people in terms of making decisions.
Yes, ma'am. Fine, we are done with the questions. Like you have precisely pointed out that leading in tough times is about instilling confidence, easing fears, empathy, and communicating action plans. So leadership is about behavior, Moro, and most effective leaders are those who can adapt and communicate while a crisis is unfolding. So, Emma, hello.
Hello. Yeah, yeah, I can hear
Yeah.
you.
All right. So, reflecting on what might they have learned when it is past and implement changes to create a better future for the people they lead. Definitely for providing such a meaningful insight on this relevant topic, navigating crisis. It has been observed that the response window for a crisis is typically measured in months, while recovery is measured in years.
Yeah.
So now it's the time for leaders to run the scenarios to create a crisis agnostic plan that is fit for commerce as well. So it was really a value adding session, ma'am. I hope the students of commerce must have accumulated a lot of comprehension about leadership and its roles. And I'm also thankful to our Dean, Professor Ajay Trivedi, sir, for providing us this opportunity to organize such a webinar. And last but not the least, yes, I thank all the participants and the viewers, students from different universities, and faculty colleagues for making the session a success.
Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Wonderful
Thank you for your
experience.
valuable time. Yes,
Thank
it was a wonderful for us as well. Nice to hear you, ma'am.
Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, ma'am.
All the best to everyone.
Thank
And
you,
be
ma'am.
safe. Be safe.